Spirit of God, you are holy. And you've altogether and always been holy. You're holy because you are Yeshua. But you have come as a spirit that we have invited into our hearts and lives. And behold, all things have become new. So as our spirit man is enlivened by you, we pray, Lord, that many people, like these people in Islam, will say, whatever it is, whatever it costs, I'm in with God. I want to invite the Spirit of the Messiah into my heart and life, because you promised to come in and be with us, walk with us, and talk with us, and be our personal friend, our advocate, the one who is helping us to get through. So we thank you that you did this for us. We pray that you will do it for others and give this message today. We pray in Yeshua's name. Amen. So, I'm noticing I'm getting older. It's happening. And reflecting about 44 years in the faith, half of which time I've been a congregant, and half of which time I've been a congregational leader. I don't like to identify as a clergyman because I'm really a businessman, and I want everybody to know that, because as a clergyman I can be blamed for, I don't want to, clergymen are targets. I don't want to be a target. But in this time of attending services and waiting for a message and so on, along the way I discovered that there was something that I called the measuring up message. The measuring up message. What's the measuring up message? That's a message that I'm not praying enough. I'm not reading the Bible enough. I'm not attending enough. I'm not tithing enough. And there was plenty of that. And now the problem with it is I would sit there and listen to the message, and I'd say, check. I resolve, Lord, I have not been reading the scriptures like I should be. Praying, Lord, I just haven't been praying enough. Check. I got that one too. I am going to pray more. I'm going to set aside a time, and not only to read the scriptures, but I am going to pray, and so on. And then there's playing hooky from the congregation. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm resolved, and so on. And at the moment, I actually believe I'm going to do those things. The problem with it is I don't. And you see, when I don't, it makes me feel less secure as to where I stand with God. Oh, where do I stand with God? I'm not praying more like I promised, and I'm not reading the scriptures more, and I'm not tithing more, and so on. And because I don't do it, I'm very I question whether I'm going to have God's backing. That's what I call the measuring up message. And so as 22 years as being a congregant, as distinguished from being a congregational leader, I about have had my fill of measuring up messages. Okay. So, when I started my first congregation, I was all of 2 years old in the Lord, and having no idea what was going on or what to do. After about 6 months, I needed to bring in somebody who really knew the scriptures and so on. And then he left after about 3 years, and people urged me, Paul, why don't you take his place? And I said, I'm just not qualified. We need to bring in somebody else. And so after about a year, we did find somebody else and brought them in. But I never felt like I really was qualified to do this without training and so on and so forth. Then we moved to San Diego. And again, we needed a congregation for our family and what to do. And it was a perplexity. I just did not know what to do. And finally, one day, it occurred to me, and I said, you're not a babe in the Lord anymore. You've been a believer 15 years, and all right, you hang out a shingle, love spoken here, and see what happens. The worst that happens is nobody shows up. In which case, you have your answer, Paul. But it did. It worked out. That congregation is still going today. My son runs it in San Diego. Hallelujah. And that began in 1987. So I found out that even people who just like reading the scriptures, that an ordinary person can fully understand the scriptures, can fully receive inspiration and pass that along to other people. And education is good, but the Bible, we're not dependent on going to school to have the things of the Lord revealed to us. And so I decided that for the first time, I could do this the way I felt it should be done. No more measuring up messages. I don't got to sit there with measuring up messages anymore. And with that thought of for the first time I could do it as I felt it should be done, that's when I decided I'm going to give this a try. So there may be a continuance of measuring up messages, but not here and not today. Hallelujah. I'm remembering the scripture that's Romans 1:16 that says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation for all those who believe, first to the Jew and also to the Greek." That's always in there, first to the Jew. I don't know how people have ever gotten the idea that God's through with the Jews. We're supposed to go first to the Jew. I'll get off of that. But I want to get in my little commercial about first to the Jew, and I want to pass up those opportunities. So I am not ashamed of the gospel. The gospel, as we recall, means good news. Actually, it means great news. I am not ashamed of the great news of that. The power of the Messiah in Messiah gives us the power of salvation to all those of us who have chosen to believe. So it's great news. Now let me see. If I'm not praying enough, is that really good news? If I'm not reading the scriptures enough, this is not really good news. Is there a gospel that says that you're not tithing enough, and you're not doing this enough, and you're not doing that enough? It just doesn't feel like good news. It's kind of a downer. It's kind of a bummer. I mean, what's great about that? I'm not measuring up. I'm deficient. I haven't done enough. I'm not qualified. God doesn't like my inability to carry these promises out, and so on and so forth. It just doesn't strike me as something to be really happy about. So I don't really consider that the good news. And yet there's lots of things that are being preached under the banner of the good news. The good news is you're a bad boy and you're a bad girl. That's the really good news. Got it? It just doesn't ring right to me. Rather, I want to explain some of the reasons why it's good news. Why it's good. We can never get enough of that. We can never get enough of underscoring that God is with us, God is for us, God is helping us, and so on. We need that to be emphasized in our life to build us up in our faith, to edify us, okay? And frankly, I look at the messages about not measuring up, I see them as tearing us down. I don't like it. So you know what? Let's not do that today. All right, so let's turn and let's see something that is good news. Let's turn to Luke 23, verse 32. Now here we have a situation. It's familiar to us, and it's a scene wherein Yeshua he's there on the cross. And it says, and there were also with him 2 other malefactors, led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, that they crucified him, and the malefactors one on the right and one on the left. Familiar scene. Okay, let's see what happens to these. Well, you know, we go on, and the scriptures tell about, you know, that the authorities labeled him King of the Jews, and the title has stuck. But in verse 39, it goes on to tell us about these malefactors, what happened with them. And one of the malefactors, which was hanged, railed on him and said, "If you be the Messiah, why don't you save yourself and also us as well?" But the other rebuked him, saying, "Don't you fear God at all, seeing that you are, you know, in the same condemnation? And indeed for us justly. We have received due reward for our deeds, but this man has done nothing." And he said unto Yeshua, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Yeshua said unto him, "Verily I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise." So here we got two guys, both committed crimes. They're both hanging up there, and so on and so forth. But there is a difference. One guy is just saying, "Do something for me. Give me, I gotta get, you can supply," and so on. The other one is saying, "I'm guilty. I'm getting what I deserve." And he's done nothing. You see, he is recognizing the truth that Yeshua really was guiltless. Now visualize that here were these two men. They were around when Yeshua was curing the blind. They heard the story about raising Lazarus from the dead. You know, the walking on water, and the blind can see, and the deaf can hear, and all these stories were around. What about the 3,000 fishes and loaves, and so on and so forth? These stories were around for all of these 3 years, 3+ years. These stories were around, and these men both heard those stories. Thousands and thousands of people followed Yeshua around, and because they heard these stories, and they say, "Can this be real?" And so he goes along and raises somebody from the dead. And people saw these things. So this was not strange, new information. They knew these things like did the other people, especially the people in Jerusalem, where so much of this took place. So what then? Well, one guy says he's an innocent man, which is to say he is who he says he is. I believe that he's innocent. And the other guy says, that's not the issue. The issue is, what can you do for me? Okay, so we got a contrast going on here. So Yeshua says to the good guy, he says, "This day you shall be with me in paradise." Where's that? Where's paradise? Well, why should he be in paradise? And where is paradise? What is paradise? That particular day, he went to be with the Lord in paradise, and paradise is not the Garden of Eden. No. The Garden of Eden was really a really great place. It was a place of contentment. It was a place where mankind had kind of a rulership and an authority over nature and so on and so forth. But the Garden of Eden, okay, is not paradise, and it's not the place we're going to. The place where we're going to is better than the Garden of Eden. Oh, come on. What could be better than the Garden of Eden? And yet, as we're going to see in a scripture we're going to read today, that eye hath not seen nor ear heard about where we're going to. Really? That means Adam and Eve never saw it, never visualized it, couldn't imagine it. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and it was very nice before the fall. But their eyes and their ears did not hear and did not see what awaits us. Ours is better than the Garden of Eden. Never thought of that before. That I'm going to a place that's better than the Garden of Eden because Adam and Eve They knew what the Garden of Eden was like. They heard it, they saw it, they experienced it, and so on. But they did not hear and they did not see about the good place we're going to. Oh, that's interesting. What can I learn about where I am going to? You know, I have to trudge through this life, but what keeps me going is my investment in the place where we're going to. Let's turn to Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8 and verse 29. Well, we begin to learn a little something about where we're going and why it's actually better than the Garden of Eden. Romans 8:29 says, "For whom he did foreknow and also did predestinate to be conformed to his image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among brethren." So, let me see. There is, he foreknew us, he predestinated us to be conformed to the image of the Messiah, all right, his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. So Yeshua is firstborn among many brethren. Brethren, King James language for brothers, all right, and sisters. That's understood in Hebrew. So now let me see. Yeshua is our brother. He's the firstborn brother, but he's a brother. So let me see. My brother, you mean God would favor my brother over me? It doesn't. You know, as parents, a lot of us here have more than one child. Can you really say, I love this child and not that one? Or I love this one more than that one? You know, one is firstborn, but even though there's a secondborn, that secondborn is loved just as much as the firstborn. And so is the thirdborn. And that's our common experience. I see a lot of heads out there confirming that I'm right. That as a parent, you have a love, as much as is possible, an equal love. I mean, I can't distinguish which of my children I love more. And so the same, but we're made in the image of God. So that's how God feels. God feels that he loves not just the firstborn, and he doesn't love the firstborn more than the nextborn, or the nextborn, or the nextborn. Oh, wait a minute. If I'm made in the image of God, there's a lesson and a testimony in there that God so loved his Son. He so loved us that he went the whole distance. And he loves me the same as he loves his firstborn son, because I'm also a son. I'm also a child of God. I'm also born again of God's Spirit. So God loves me equal as to how he loves his son Yeshua? Yeah, that's right. Okay, firstborn among brothers and sisters. So there's an equality going on. Although he's the firstborn, he may be first among equals, but what he gets, we get. God is not saying, oh, this is my firstborn, and I'm going to give you all of these goodies, and you're going to get the crumbs. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't even sound like God to say that. No, what he gets, we get. He's a brother. And my brother, my older brother, my younger brother, a fair God. And God has to be ultimately fair and just. He wouldn't say, oh, you, Mr. Yeshua, you're A-okay with me. These others, all right, I'm ready, I'll let you in. It just doesn't sound like God. A just and a fair God would say that among all the brothers that you're all going to get an equal inheritance. I want us to concentrate on this thing about getting an equal inheritance. Let's look elsewhere in chapter 8 and verse 14, where it speaks about this equal inheritance. Chapter 8 of Romans and verse 14 says, "For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." You mean Yeshua is the Son of God? Wow, I'm going to bow down and worship him. Well, but it says that if you have been led by the Spirit, if you have invited the Spirit into your heart and life, you are the sons of God. Huh? So Yeshua is a son of God, and you're a son of God. Oh, I'm a son of God? Yeah, you're a son of God. How did I get to be a son of God? Well, you believed God, and you believed His Word, and you believed in His Messiah, and you invited in His Spirit into your heart and life, and that was enough. And you say, well, that just seems overly generous. That's our God, overly generous. That's who He is. So now we're the sons of God, and firstborn among brethren. Brothers get an equal share. For you have not received the spirit of bondage, and so on and so forth, but you've received the spirit of adoption, okay, whereby we also can call Abba, Father. So although we were born in sin, we got adopted. What did I ever do to be, I mean, it's kind of like here's this ugly child, okay, born in sin and deformity, okay, and God says, that's the one I want. I see the potential that's going to become my child, and it's going to become a beautiful child. We got adopted. Hallelujah. That's really something. But now that we're adopted, all right, from actually leading a life under the auspices of the rebel adversary Satan, we have come out from under that, and we have been adopted by a Father to be an equal son, a son of God. That's us. Oh, wait a minute, my boss doesn't seem to think so. That's his opinion. God's got a different opinion. God's opinion is we are of an equal class with Yeshua. It's so hard to grasp, but that's what it says here. Firstborn among brethren, that we have been adopted to be a son. The Spirit itself witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. There's something about that rings right. It rings right. And that's what the Scripture is saying here in verse 16, that our spirit beareth witness as to the fairness and the justness of God, and that if He says that we're of an equal class, an equal category with Yeshua, that a just and fair God, a generous God, we witness to it and we say, yeah, that's right. I don't understand it, but it's right. Verse 17, and if the children, then heirs of God. Oh, you mean we're all sons of God, yeah? That means we're all heirs. Oh, that's good. This is really getting to sound like good news. Then heirs of God and joint heirs with Messiah. That it be, and so I mean, this idea of being a joint heir with Messiah. Now that's not a speculation on Paul's part. I don't surmise that. I'm not guessing at it. I'm not venturing my opinion about it, okay? It is a fact. Why is it a fact? Because Paul said so? No. It's because the Scripture says that it is so, that we are a joint heir with the Messiah. What He gets, we get. Oh, that's something. I'm a joint heir. So what did Yeshua, what did He inherit? I'd like to look at that, because whatever it is that He inherited, I'm going to get an equal inheritance. I got my share. It's not like He gets a big share and I get a little share. No, we're joint heirs, equal heirs. Joint heirs means equal heirs, okay? What did Yeshua get? He went to the cross, suffered terribly, okay? Never committed a sin, suffered a reproach, did all these things in a superb way beyond our ability. But because we say, I want to be with Him, I want to be with Him, I want to be just one cell in His body, sure thing, no problem. And so that qualifies us to be joint heirs. Now, as a joint heir, I want to look at what did Yeshua get? Well, first thing is He got to be at the right hand of the Father. That's it, Russell. Going to be at the right hand of the Father, right? And you know what? Anthony is going to be a joint heir with you. He is going to get every bit that you get, he's going to get. Well, you're a father and he's only a son. Doesn't make any difference. He's a joint heir. Equal share. Everybody gets an equal share. Huh? We are all going to be at the right hand of the Father with Yeshua. Every single born-again believer. I mean, now this is really good news. This is a much better situation than the measuring up business. I like the idea of being at the right hand of the Father. Oh, now, What else did Yeshua get? Oh, eye hath not seen and ear not heard. You know, it must be some kind of a marvelous place. You know, I read that, the streets are paved with gold, and it's going to be a fancy schmancy place, all kinds of onyx around, and the colors are going to be glorious, and so on and so forth. Music that goes on forever, morning, noon, and nighttime, worshiping God. And there is no sin there. So all of those things we're suffering with, jealousy, envy, reproach, poverty, illness, all of those negative things, they are nowhere to be found. All the different things in this life that we find irritating or objectionable are banned, because there is not one shred of imperfection in heaven. God cannot allow even the smallest sin to come in and pollute his heaven. So all of those bad things, everything you can think of that's been bad in your life, has been banned, not allowed in heaven. We're going to that place, and I like that as being part of my inheritance, because that's what Yeshua inherited. Now let me see. Mankind was born a little lower than the angels, okay? But that meant that the angels formed us. They were agents on God's behalf to create the trees and the fish and all of these things. So we were made lower than the angels. But the scriptures say that because of our faith, because we chose, despite what our eyes see, despite what we're told, despite everything, we believed God. Angels can't do that. Angels see everything that's going on, and there's no gambling in it for them. They know what the score is, and therefore they have no opportunity to exhibit faith. We do have an opportunity to exhibit faith. We have a choice, this way or that way. Am I going to believe what society tells me, what I see on television, what all my neighbors tell me, and so on and so on? Am I going to believe that? Am I going to believe the worst? Or am I going to believe the scriptures? Believing the scriptures you can't do without receiving the Spirit of God. But if you have received the Spirit of God, the scriptures will unfold. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, let me see. Yeshua, we're born lower than the angels, but we've run the gauntlet of faith in this life. We've gotten through it. We've hung on to the faith. We believe it no matter what. No matter what our adversity there is, we say, no, God, it's working out, and so on and so forth. And God gives us clues as to how to get through this life. And we hang on. Even though sometimes it's hard to hang on, we hang on. And so we have run, at the end of our days, we have run the gauntlet of faith, something angels cannot do at all. They're not capable of it. There's no issue of faith for angels. Therefore, we have shown ourselves to be of a higher caliber, a higher qualification than angels. Therefore, although we were made in the Garden of Eden to be lower than the angels, the scriptures say we have been raised above the angels, like Yeshua did. Okay? So Yeshua came and became a man. To become a man is lower than the angels. Right? The negative angels, they tormented him. Right? He submitted to that because he was a man. But what happened to him? He rose above the angels. He has authority over the angels. They must do what he says. And he actually was able to cast out demons because they knew who he was. And so, that's us. We're joint heirs. We were made a little lower than the angels, but because of our faith, we're raised above the angels, and therefore, we have authority over the angels in kingdom come. So now, just think about it. An angel has just so much power. Think of the first fallen angel, Lucifer. Has he got power? Man, he's got himself. He does this, he does that. Kings tremble, and so on and so forth. And he's of the angel class. But we have outclassed him by our faith. We have risen above the angels, and therefore our inheritance in kingdom come is to be above the angels and to tell them what to do. I like that. So now these automaton angels, they are subject to us because we have shown ourselves to be of a higher and nobler category. We have demonstrated that we're capable of doing something morally that angels cannot demonstrate. because they're not subject to faith. Oh, let's go on with Galatians chapter 4. Talking more about this. Galatians chapter 4 and verse 6. And because you are the sons of God, oh, I like that. Because you are the sons of God, you have sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, an heir of God through Messiah. There it is again. We are a son, and so on and so forth, because we have the Spirit of God. If you haven't invited the Spirit of God into your heart and life, you're missing out on a great future. You're kind of losing your inheritance. Well, wait a minute. You mean I get all these things if I'll just invite the Spirit of God into my life and say, oh, Messiah, please come. I've been going to church all these years, and I've never really invited you in. I've never really repented. I've just kind of attended. And I can actually be a joint heir. I'm going to a place when this disintegrating body, when I leave it, that I'm going, yeah. Well, what did Yeshua? You know, he was whipped. His face was marred more than any man. But you know what happened to him when he came back? Okay? He didn't come back with blood on his face. No, he didn't. Right? But he came back. You know, he walked through walls. What he gets, we get. Power over the atom. That's us. Joint heirs. And so on. So, let me see. We're going to be, we can do all of these things in Messiah Yeshua. Now, of course, Yeshua, he gets to petition God. Huh? Yeah. So he says, yeah, I'm looking down now on Gail and Ethel. And, you know, they got issues. And, you know, they've been petitioning me, and I'm petitioning you. And so they have their problems. You know, what say we dispatch some angels to solve those problems? Okay, son. Huh? Now, if he gets to do that, we're joint heirs with him. Right? So not only do we have power over angels, that awaits our future, but we can petition the Father the way he petitions the Father. Oh, let me see. God the Father and God the Son are one. Let me see. There's God the Father is one with the Son is one with the Father, 1 equals 1, 2 different manifestations of the same thing, and then there's the Spirit of God. Oh, let me see. The Spirit is equal to Yeshua, Yeshua is equal to God, God is equal to the Spirit is equal to Messiah, and so on and so forth. What a happy family. It's the family of God, right? And we's the children. Huh? That's us. We're the children of God. We're the sons of God. So we get to petition also. Now we remember the scriptures that say, that he's at one with us. I'm at one with the Messiah. I'm in the Father's in me. And so, and the Apostle Paul shows us that that we are at one with Yeshua. So I'm with Yeshua. Yeshua's at one with me. We're the same. We're brethren. I just haven't graduated out of this flesh yet. But we're together. We're brethren. We're in the same family. Born of the same God, Father, Spirit. And so, that means I'm in Yeshua. Yeshua is in the Father. The Father is in the Son. The Son is in me. It all goes together. It's one family, very tightly knit. I mean, catch the shorthand of it. Huh? We are invited to be in the Godhead. We are invited to be in the Godhead. That's our future. That's our destiny, is to join Yeshua in the Godhead. To be at the right hand of the Father, to have authority from on high, without blemish. And you know what? You say, well, suppose I have a different opinion than God does. Who's going to rule? Well, you're not going to have a different opinion than God has. Right? That whole idea of having a different opinion, that comes from Lucifer, Satan, the deceiver, the adversary, and so on. And he ain't nowhere to be found. You won't have a different opinion. You're just going to be in the Godhead, celebrating at all time. You know, we're going from the marriage supper to the Lamb. Right? That's a family dinner. That's us. We're part of the family, and we are going to our destination to be part of the Godhead. It's so much, it's hard to grasp and understand what that means. Now, Yeshua is up there now, and he can see all things. Us too. That's coming for us. He can see all things, can know all things, can influence all things. That's us too. Firstborn among brethren. What he gets, we get. You say, well, Paul, it doesn't seem fair. Not to us, but to God, that's fair. You gave the supreme and ultimate thing that God really wants. I mean, you got one thing. He's got everything else. But there's one thing that we got that he wants. Okay? He wants us to love him and believe him. And that he can't require. What's it worth if you have to, if you have to coerce it? If you have to press for it? You know, you will love me with all your heart and with all your might and so on. Do you hear me? You know, are you measuring up? It doesn't sound like God, right? That's not how God does it. To love somebody is to do so out of your own heart. And God sees that there's a sufficient enough within our own heart to give ourselves over to the love of God, to say, God, what can I do to help? How can I serve? I just thank you so much. I just want to do something. I just want to do something. And so God gives us assignments. You know, I counted up, it's like 21 people it takes to put on a service here. 7 of them are missing this morning. But what happened? I didn't have to make telephone. You know, everybody runs around and says they know what to do, and they make it all happen. Because people have a desire, a love of God, a belief in God. And that God, that's up to our part. And he says, that's good. And so he says, I got mine. I got what I wanted. I got your love. I got your faithfulness. I got your belief that I'm true. And that's worth everything to God. So you say, according to our evaluation, it's not equitable. It doesn't make any difference what our evaluation is. It all has to do with God's sense of justice and so on. Joint heirs. I'm telling you, this Yeshua, he's got the whole thing. He's got everything the Father's got. So if he's got everything the Father's got, we've got everything the Father's got. The whole shoot and caboodle is ours. That's where we're going. And so no wonder it's going to be so, the blessing is going to be so much we're going to have to hide from it because it's going to be so much, who can stand so much blessing? I mean, can that possibly be? Can it possibly be so much that we won't even be able to stand it? Yeah, it's not only possible, it's coming. And that's our destination. Now, friends, I tell you, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard. You know, we can't even imagine it. That's what that says. We can't even imagine it. But we can take God's word for it, that he is faithful to his promise, and that he will perform on it, and that he wants to give us everything. He's not the kind of God that says, well, young man, I'm going to steal off and give you a portion of your allowance. And, you know, instead of giving you the whole thing, you didn't quite measure up this week, so I'm going to give you a portion of your allowance. And now, Seymour over here, he's going to get his full allowance because he was a good boy. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. No, a just and fair God says, you're all my family. I love you all equally. You're all getting the same thing, an equal portion. That's good news. That's great news. That's fantastic news. That's really fantastic. And the thing is it's getting better at an increasing rate. And you know, in heavenly places, the expansion of his kingdom, there's going to be no end. So it's going to continue to get better and better and better at an increasing rate. I can hardly stand it just to talk about it. Can I imagine how great that's going to be? And it's, hallelujah. And it says in heavenly places, I'm going to be separated from my sins as the east is from the west. That means there's a total edit job going on in my life. Everything that I did that was discardable has been discarded. It will never come to mind to you or any of my brethren. They're in heavenly places. We have been given the earnest of our inheritance. We do have a measure of authority already over the demonic forces. If we will say go away, they will go away. But we have to be able to say go away. And you know, sometimes it's so delicious we don't want to say go away. But if standing in the middle of it, while temptation is strong, while the hate builds up, while the discouragement becomes large and despair is overtaking us, to make a stand and say, no, I will believe my God. He said thus and so, and he said thus and so, and therefore I'm not going to believe what's going on. I'm only going to believe the Scriptures. That's what he wants. You know, this thing about eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, that tells us that Adam and Eve, they did not have a grasp of what awaits us. It's going to be much, much better. They didn't hear and they didn't see. We're going to a better place. Last scripture, Isaiah 64:4. You say, well, that's great Gentile propaganda from the New Testament. But where do you get that out of the Old Testament, Jewish boy? And so Jewish boy has an answer. Jewish boy says in Isaiah 64:4, where did they get this from the New Testament? They were quoting the Old Testament. 1/3 of the New Testament are quotations from the Old Testament. That's an explanation of the Old Testament. And Isaiah says, for since the beginning of the world, Adam and Eve, men have not heard nor perceived by ear, neither hath eye seen, O God, besides thee, who hath prepared him for him who waits for him. So according to Isaiah, from the beginning of the world, including Adam and Eve, no ear and no eye has heard. That's where they got that scripture that was read today from 1 Corinthians 2:9. It's Old Testament as well as New Testament. God's promise is eternal. It isn't something he made up in the New Testament. I tell you, we have something great that awaits us. All we got to do is get through this life as best we can. But we have somebody who will help. And he does help us. Did I understand all of the things that I understand now when I first became a believer? Not a chance. No way. But what happened was I didn't have to understand. All I had to do was throw in with it. You see, normally we say, oh, I got to understand. I got to mathematically work it out. I have to piece it together and so that it's rational and so on and so forth. And then when you satisfy all my curiosities, then I'll believe. That may be too late. That may be too late. I have a friend. He was the first kid I met in kindergarten, Alan Ginsberg. And we were friends all through grade school and high school. Tuesday, Alan died. And he was, within like 24 hours, suddenly, out of nowhere, he died. 73 years old. Now, Alan and I talked all the time, all our lives, and when I often became, and we went to Orthodox synagogue together. And he was the most religious kid I knew. He and his father went three times a day to daven in the shul. Okay? But Alan became an agnostic, became an atheist, and so on and so, always identified as Jewish. And so Alan always resisted the gospel. Poor Alan. All he had to do was say, I want in. Why didn't Alan do that? It grieves me so. Why didn't he? He was afraid that people wouldn't think well of him. What a laughable thing. That because people aren't going to think well of me, I'm going to forego my inheritance. No, I refuse my inheritance. I'm not going to. No. This inviting Yeshua, I don't believe in Yeshua. I don't believe any of it. The Bible's a bunch of bubbly. It's a bunch of myths, and I don't want. Don't try to force my inheritance upon me. I go to synagogue. I'm there. I say them in Hebrew, and someday, and maybe God understands what I'm saying in Hebrew. And what about the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church is full of people who know about God but don't know God. They know the history of it. They know, but they don't know God. And when you say, well, you know, you've been going for 20 years, but you have never said, Yeshua, be my Messiah. I invite you into my heart and life. Because you can't say those few sentences, you are throwing away your inheritance. And I say, whoa, you poor wretch. Why can't you say the few words in sincerity and get an inheritance equal with the rest of us? Hey, hallelujah. No, don't. I don't want that. Why, people will think me like kook. Alan thought I was a kook. He didn't want to become a kook like me. Well, kook or no kook, I got me an inheritance. Hallelujah. My friends, if you want an inheritance and you have never invited the Messiah into your heart and life, okay, you can raise your hand now and say, I want to publicly explain that. If anybody wants to raise their hand and say, I'm in, how do I get in? You want to raise your hand? Raise your hand. Amen. Hallelujah. Now, if you'd like to throw in with this privately, come see me privately. I can assure you the inheritance is easy. His yoke is easy. His burden is light. And we'll say the magic words, and you'll say them in sincerity, and behold, your entire life will change. And not just this life, but the next life. It's a big deal. The stakes are high. Throw in, and let's all say hallelujah.